Hello everyone, Cindy here with Monarch Mom DIY. Thank you so much for joining me today on my channel where I love to bring you the best tips and tools for creating beautiful home decor on a budget. Today I am here with 20 of some of my best fall home decor DIYs. I had some of these in my craft show just this past weekend, so I wanted to bring them up again because it has been a while, and we'll talk about these in new and different ways. So with all that being said, let's get crafting. Today's first DIY is a Gather Pumpkins sign. We're going to be using 3 packs of the 5-gallon paint sticks, 3 1-gallon paint sticks, this MDF Gather sign from Dollar Tree, as well as 2 of these foam pumpkins. So once I make my sign, I have my 9 5-gallon craft stick or paint sticks laid across, and then I glued the 3 1-gallon paint sticks to the back to hold them together, and then did antique wax on the sign. Now once you take the stem out of these foam pumpkins, you can just cut them in half and they are hollow foam. We're going to use 3 halves for our sign. This one in the middle, we're going to paint a light gray using our Waverly chalk paint in the color Mineral. Then this was before I had pumpkin, and I just mixed an orange acrylic paint with some white chalk paint to make a light peach color. And then before the color Agave, I used this Martha Stewart paint I had, also lightened it up with some white Waverly chalk paint to get this nice teal color. Now we have Agave that we can use for this. So I gave each of my pumpkins 1 or 2 good coats. Then coming to the MDF sign, I did paint the front of this with just 1 coat of our Waverly chalk paint in white to give it a little bit of a rustic look. Then I did take a few different sizes of some wood beads. I painted some of them with the teal color and some of them with the mineral gray, and then left some of them natural. You could do this however you want. Then we're going to take some jute twine, tie a knot at the end, and string our beads. This will be for our beaded hanger for a completed sign. Once we have our beads on, we will hot glue our 2 ends of our jute twine to the back of our sign. I will also tell you that I did paint this entire back black before the craft show so that it would be finished. And this sign, we can turn to the front. We're going to paint 3 of our tumbling tower blocks with our either your antique wax, or you could use the truffle, the dark brown paint. Now, once our pumpkins were dry, I did take white and a chippy brush and just kind of streaky painted the white over the teal, orange, and gray, just to give it a little bit more texture and character. I gave each of my pumpkins a different type of ribbon bow. You can see here, I'm tying my bows and then trimming them. We're also going to take some of the jute twine that has wire inside from Dollar Tree and make some curlicues, 2 of them for each of our pumpkins. Once we have all of our pieces, we are going to then take some hot glue and glue down our 3 pumpkin halves. Then we'll add our tumbling tower block stem, our bow, and our jute wire curlicues to finish off this sign. I did sell this in my craft show this weekend, actually pretty quickly at the beginning, for $20. And considering I have only a few dollars into this, I think that was pretty good. I probably could have gotten $25 for it. For DIY number 2, we're going to make a cute square sign using one of these 3D wood trucks from Dollar Tree, an 8-inch square wood sign, some Scrabble tiles, and some scrapbook paper. So once I removed the 3-dimensional objects from the sign, I am just going to go around and paint, especially around the edges, with white chalk paint. Then we will put some Mod Podge on and put this cute orange and teal and brown plaid paper onto the back of our sign. I did spritz some water on it. It helps it stick to the Mod Podge. Then I'm going to paint my one piece of the truck. I did leave the little tumbling tower blocks in between attached to this piece. We're going to paint everything with our teal. Then we're going to add some details with our black paint marker and also a silver paint marker. Once our truck was all the way painted, I'm putting some hot glue on the ends of the two pieces that will make this truck stand out from the back of the sign, and we're just pressing that down. Then also using hot glue and my Scrabble letters that spell pumpkins, I have spaced these out and I'm now gluing them at the bottom of our sign. I did take a couple little foam pumpkins from Dollar Tree. I did cut this one in half so it could lay flat against the back, and then using hot glue, attaching these to our sign in the back of the truck. Now we're just going to take some ribbon and I'm going to dovetail them actually before I put the messy bow together. You can see how I'm doing that here. We're just going to make a messy bow and we're going to attach this to the top of our square sign. For an added fall touch, we will hot glue a small little pine cone to the center of our bow, and I did also add a jute twine hanger to this sign. For DIY number 3, we're going to be making a wood lantern using some pieces from Michael's and the dollar store. So we're going to use some dowels, 2 of these hexagons from Michael's that are 99 cents each, and a chunky circle from Dollar Tree. Here I'm taking 6 tumbling tower blocks and gluing them together on their wide side to make a square that we're going to use on top of our lantern. Here I'm filling in the holes of our chunky circle because that's going to be part of the top of our lantern as well. Then taking my 2 wood hexagons from Michael's, I'm removing the jute twine. We're going to take out the staples, took off the labels, and we're removing the screws and the hangers. Then we'll use the spackle from Dollar Tree again to fill in the holes on the back there. Now I'm making marks on my dowels so that I can cut them to get 6 pieces that are all the same length. I'm pretty sure I did about 8 probably about 8 inches for these. And we're going to use these at the 6 corners of our hexagon to make our lantern stand tall. With my 2 hexagons, the chunky circle, and we're going to use our antique wax, brushing it on and wiping off the excess. We'll do this on all of the sides of these shapes. Then with our dowels, our bead, and our square of tumbling tower blocks, we're going to paint these with our Waverly chalk paint in the color ink, also known as black. Once all of our pieces are dry, I'm going to use some wood glue and I'm going to glue one of these dowels standing up, like I said, in each of the 6 corners of our wood hexagon. Then while those are drying, we're going to layer our chunky wood circle onto the other wood hexagon. Then we're going to layer our black square of tumbling tower blocks and then our black bead that has the flattened bottom. This is going to be the top of our lantern. You'll see there was a little bit of discoloration where the spackle was on this side of the chunky circle, so try to only rub the spackle on one side and then use that face down. Now I'm just going to fill the bottom of the lantern with some fall things, and then we'll be able to tuck the top of the lantern by gently pressing each of the dowels into the corners of the top. I love how this lantern turned out. I love that you can make them different heights based on the length of your wood dowels. For DIY number 4, we're going to be using some items from Dollar Tree to make a cute fall fence decor. This 3-piece sign from Dollar Tree, as well as some of their pumpkins. And we're also going to be using 2 packages of the 5-gallon paint sticks. We're going to paint 5 of them. Well, they're all going to be painted white. Then we're going to use 5 for the fence, and then the 6th one we're going to cut in half, that we're going to then glue across the other 5 to hold our fence together. You can see I'm doing that with some wood glue there. We'll have one towards the bottom and one piece towards the top. Now I have these 2 little shelf sitter signs from Dollar Tree as well. They're just the cardboard. We're going to glue those together and then use some of our little clamps until they're dry. I did like the wood grain finish that was around the sides of this, but we wanted to cover up the words there. So I ended up painting it after taping it off. I painted it with that teal color. You're going to see in a little bit that I didn't need to do that because of something else I decided to add to the base of our project. I also took some of our truffle Waverly chalk paint to add some distressing to our fence, brushing that on with a chippy brush, and then also sanding in some of the places. Now I loved the muted colors of this 3-piece sign, but I did also take some truffle and lightly brush that across and even sanded in some places on these 3 pieces of the sign that we're going to use on our fence. I did also remove them from the ribbon that was holding them together. So this is how I'm going to glue them on the back of our fence to decorate it, and then we will move on to the next part of the project, which is gluing our fence to our base. This will allow it to stand up on its own, and you can see how I just glued that with some hot glue. Now this is what I meant by I didn't really need to paint the top of that teal, because then I ended up taking some of these moss sheets from Dollar Tree and cutting them to fit. This is the only item that is not from Dollar Tree. It's actually from Dollar General. I wanted a larger pumpkin, and this little pumpkin candy jar was $1, and I just painted it with my teal paint. 2 of these little hay bales from Dollar Tree I glued next to each other so it looked like a bigger one. And then the rest of this project is just arranging different pumpkins and leaves and gourds and little pieces of flowers until I got this project looking how I wanted it. I will also add some fall leaves to the top of the fence as well. If you're stopping by my channel for the first time today, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here and that you found me. I really hope you'll consider sticking around by hitting that subscribe button. If you are one of my returning viewers or subscribers, thank you so much for coming back each and every week supporting my channel. I hope everyone will hit the bell and check your notifications. Make sure they're set to all so YouTube should let you know each time I upload or go live here on my channel. For DIY number 5, we're going to make this porch welcome sign. This is one of my favorite projects, using 7 of these 3D wood pumpkins from Dollar Tree, some 5-gallon paint sticks, and some paint and some ribbon. So for all 7 of these pumpkins, we're going to paint the base, the mineral, the light gray after we remove the hanger and the raffia bow. So we're just going to carefully use a small brush and just try not to get paint on the raised part. Then for 4 of the 7 pumpkins, we're going to use teal to paint the 3 raised sections. And then for the other 3 pumpkins, we're going to use orange. Now this was before I had my Magnolia stencils and I did not have sticker letters large enough for what I wanted. So I printed out the letters to spell welcome on my computer, and then I'm using some carbon tracing paper to trace each letter onto the center part of the pumpkins. So you'll see here I did W, then I'll do E, and we'll keep going to spell the whole word. Then taking my black paint marker from Walmart, I'm going to trace those letters and then fill them in so that you'll be able to read them. And here's what they all look like with their stenciled letters filled in. Then taking some wood glue and a combination with hot glue, I'm going to now layer my pumpkins on top of the stem of the letter after it to spell the word welcome. So you'll see I just put glue on the L and I'm putting the bottom of the E pumpkin on top of that stem. And this is what it looks like. I had to turn my camera sideways to show you. Then I'm taking 6 paint sticks and gluing them to the back to make it nice and secure. I also added some moss between each pumpkin. Then just taking some ribbon and tying a simple bow with some jute twine in the center. We're going to add this to the stem of our top pumpkin, our W, after we wrap the center with a little piece of burlap. We're going to layer a couple of bows together for the top of this pumpkin. Here I'm using an orange and tan gingham. That's probably 3/8. And there you can see how I glued them on top of our top pumpkin. And here's what they look like, just in a black metal bucket with some black and white scarf from Dollar Tree around it. I did leave some paint stick at the bottom so that the E would be visible at the top. For DIY number 6, we're going to make a super simple project using this garden flag from Dollar General, was $2, and 4 paint sticks. Now you will want to iron this a little bit because it is a little wrinkly, but here I'm measuring how long I want my paint stick pieces to be and then cutting them with my saw and miter box. Now that our flag is wrinkle free, we're going to put some hot glue on one of our pieces of paint stick, and we're going to glue that across the top of our flag. Then once that's in place, we'll flip it over and we're going to glue a second paint stick, kind of sandwiching the garden flag between the 2 pieces. We're going to do the exact same thing on the bottom of our garden flag as well. Then I just took some jute twine and wrapping it and tying a knot around the left side of our top sticks. We're going to leave a length of it and then tie a knot on the other side. And that's all there is to it. I did glue a couple of these leaves that had red, orange, and yellow in them to match the colors in the garden flag. And I will tell you that this item sold at my craft show this weekend for $12. DIY number 7 is a super cute little wood crate with some repurposed jar vases. We're going to use 1 crate from Dollar Tree, some of these wood words from Dollar Tree, and like I said, 2 glass bottles, and then whatever florals you want. So for fall, I love the antique wax, so I'm going to use this on the outside and the inside and the top and the bottom of this wood crate, brushing it on and wiping off the excess, and then we will let it dry completely. Then taking a little bit of jute twine, I'm putting a dot of hot glue, And I'm just going to wrap this a few times around the top section of our crate. Then we will snip it and hot glue down the other end to keep it in place. Now, you do not have to add words to your crate, but some options if you want wood words are from Hobby Lobby or Dollar Tree. I decided to make my little crate two-sided, so we're going to use give thanks on one side and blessed on the other side. I was going to try to paint this with a white paint marker, but then I decided to just leave it the natural wood because it stood out just fine from the dark antique wax of the crate. So we'll just use hot glue to glue give thanks on one side and blessed on the other side. I did also decide to add a small little black and white gingham bow to the blessed side. And then on the give thanks side, we're going to use 2 of these wood pumpkin stickers that are from Hobby Lobby. For my 2 glass bottles, I decided to spray paint them first of all with a dark greenish teal color. Then I'm taking my Moss Waverly chalk paint and a chippy brush to streak that lighter green color over the bottle, and then I'll take a paper towel and kind of rub it out. I was just kind of trying to get a different look, a different texture for my bottles, and then I did spray those with a clear matte once I had them how I wanted. Then taking some thin jute twine from Dollar Tree, I'm just going to wrap with twine at the top of the mouth of each bottle. And lastly, you can add whatever florals you'd like. I just love this, the simplicity of it. And once fall's over, you can turn it around to the blessed side and add florals that will match the season. For DIY number 8, we're going to take some more of the wood crates from Dollar Tree and we're going to make a little pumpkin display. This time I'm using a crate that has the spaces in it. We're also going to take some of these 5-gallon paint sticks again, and we're cutting off the narrow handle part so that they're all just straight. We're going to do this with 4 of them and then take some larger craft sticks, trim the rounded ends, and hot glue these to the back on the measurement side of the paint sticks to hold them all together. And then it will stand up nice and flat. For our background that we made with the paint sticks, as well as our 1 wood crate, again, we're going to use the antique wax, brushing it on over every space and every side, and then wiping off the excess until they're dry. Once they are dry, we'll use some wood glue and we'll glue that crate right to the bottom of our paint stick background. And then we will let that dry as well. Next, we'll take 3 wood pumpkin ornaments from Dollar Tree and 3 different fall scrapbook papers. And we're going to Mod Podge each scrapbook paper to one of our pumpkins. I'm just trimming the papers here so that it will be easier to get them onto the pumpkins. So once we have our papers ready, we'll just take some matte finish Mod Podge, brush that on our pumpkin, spritz the paper, rub it on, let it dry. And then once it is dry, you can see we're going to use our fingertip knife and a cutting mat to cut around the edges of the scrapbook paper, and then also use sandpaper to get those edges nice and flat. We're going to use some different small ribbons here, again, to add a little bow to each of the stems of our pumpkins. Next, we're going to use some more of my fall ribbon, mostly from Dollar Tree, and some burlap here to make another messy bow that we will use at the top of our paint stick background. And here's our cute little messy bow for the top of our project. Now I'm just arranging the pumpkins the way I want them before we glue them together so they will be one piece that we can just set inside this wood crate. So here I am just gluing the 3 together in a way that lets you see them all. Now I had this tag from a different Dollar Tree sign. It said Happy Harvest, but on the back I'm just going to paint it white, and then I'm going to write the word pumpkins with an orange paint marker and then do the little stitching marks around with the black paint marker. Then we'll hot glue our messy bow to the top of our project. I feel like that does a great job of finishing off the top. Add another little pine cone. We're going to glue on the little pumpkins tag, and then we will set our trio of pumpkin ornaments inside the raffia that I have inside the crate. For a description of all the products I've used in today's projects and the links to the original videos that are a little more extended in explanation for each of these projects, please check the description box below the title of the video. You'll have to hit the little arrow so that it opens up the description box. All of those things will be there, as well as some links to my Amazon storefront and my Magnolia website. For DIY number 9, we're going to make a fun pumpkin sign using a grapevine wreath to be the pumpkin, some more of the 5-gallon paint sticks, some ribbon, some leaves, and some of this pitberry bead garland from Dollar Tree. So I actually had this sign that was wood, but you can definitely make another one using paint sticks like I did in the first project. I'm actually going to paint this white and then sand it a little bit to give it a rustic look. I love this tall kind of oblong grapevine wreath. It just looks like a tall oval shaped pumpkin to me. So I'm putting hot glue all over the back of it, and I'm going to flip it over and glue it to my background. Then taking a JENGA block, I'm going to use antique wax. You could also use truffle chalk paint to make the stem for our grapevine wreath pumpkin, and we will glue that once it's dry to the back of our sign. And again, another messy bow using sometimes, actually for this one, I think I just used one piece for each ribbon, and we're just going to kind of tie them. Maybe these are meant to look more like leaves on the pumpkin, but I thought this was really cute, and some of them I used 2 pieces, like I said, and some I used 1. I used this kind of lacy ribbon in the middle to tie everything together. And then we'll also tie a bow with this to add to our little homespun looking pumpkin grapevine wreath. Now cutting some smaller little bunches of leaves from a pick I had. We're going to glue those around the top of our pumpkin, kind of by the JENGA block stem. Then once we have that, we'll put some glue on our ribbon and finish off our project. I love how this turned out. It's so simple and super cute and unique, and I did sell this in my craft show as well. I believe I sold it for $15. For DIY number 10, we're going to use 2 rectangular wood trays from Dollar Tree to make a little wagon. We're also going to use 4 small wood slices, some tumbling tower blocks, and a piece of wood dowel. So the first thing we did is for one of our trays, gently press out the bottom of the tray until it comes off so that you have a full tray and just the sides of the second tray. We're going to paint both of those with our antique wax, brushing it on and wiping off the excess. Next, taking 8 tumbling tower blocks, we're going to glue them together in 4 sets of 2, gluing them end to end. Once these are dry and painted, we're going to use these to separate the two sections of our wagon you'll see here in a moment. So now they are dry, so we'll go ahead and darken them up with our antique wax. You can see that I marked halfway down one block and put a little pencil mark, and then I'm going to glue that into the corner of the tray that we took the bottom out of. This is going to give our wagon its height, and we're going to do that in all four corners of our top tray. Then once that's dry completely, we're going to put wood glue on the bottom of those tumbling tower block towers and also on the sides where the corner of the bottom tray will be, so that this will be glued together and secure. You can see I'm just tucking in the tumbling tower blocks to the corner of our bottom tray, and I did use some clamps to make sure those were in place before they dried completely. Next, taking our wood slices, I did mark, I believe it was about 1¼ inches, because these are odd shaped. I wanted them to all be glued in the same place, the same height, so that our wagon would stand straight. So that's where that 1¼ inch is between the bottom of the tray and the table or shelf or whatever you have this setting on. We'll go ahead then and glue all four of our wood slices to be the wheels on this super cute little wagon. I did need one more tumbling tower block and a length of dowel. This will be to make the pull handle for our wagon. We're going to use the antique wax again, and then once those are dry, put a little dot of wood glue on the end of the dowel and glue that down to the tumbling tower block. To decorate the side of our wagon, I took this little Farm Fresh Pumpkins printable I found online, glued it to one of our black and white gingham pumpkins, and I'm just going to glue this pumpkin to one of the sides of our wagon. Then to attach our handle, I'm putting it in through the bottom hole of the bottom tray and holding it in place, attaching it with some wood glue to the base of that bottom tray and inside the little hole. And I love how this turned out. It's super cute. You can put pumpkins or whatever it is you'd like inside for the fall. DIY 11 is a Hello Fall tag sign. We're going to use 2 tag-shaped signs from Dollar Tree, some more ribbon, some scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby, and some sort of wood word. Now, these had this chalkboard on the front. I just peeled those off. Now, making this project, I would most likely use the wood tags from Magnolia, but I did just remove the paper sign and then apply a light layer of Mod Podge, spritz some water on my scrapbook paper, and we're going to Mod Podge this cute paper with the blue trucks and the sunflowers onto one of our tags, and then use the black and white buffalo check on the second tag. Doing the same thing, Mod Podge, and then spritz the paper, let that dry, and then we will trim the edges once both papers are completely dry using our fingertip knife from Fiskars and a cutting mat underneath. To get those edges a little cleaner and also give a little rustic look, we're going to use some sandpaper on the edges. These happy fall words from Hobby Lobby come in orange or brown in the package. I decided to use the orange one on the bottom right corner of the truck tag, and I thought it stood out perfectly and matched with the pumpkins. Then we're going to overlap these tags and glue them together to give them a little cute offset look. Then taking some burlap wired ribbon, we're going to make a simple loop of ribbon, tie it in the center with jute twine a few times to make a really simple bow. And then we'll take another length of that exact same wired burlap ribbon that we're going to make as a separate piece that will be the tail of our bow. Once I have the burlap bow glued down, I'm going to take this black and white gingham ribbon from Dollar Tree, make a smaller bow, and I'm going to layer that on top of the burlap bow, just to add some more color and to cover up that jute twine in the center that I used to tie that loop of the burlap bow. And I did add a jute twine hanger to this, and this did sell in my craft show. I believe it was $10. DIY number 12 is super fun. We're going to make some Jenga block pumpkins using actual Jenga blocks. You could make these with tumbling tower blocks or the Dollar General version, and some wine corks and some leaves. So this is for one small pumpkin. I'm going to make 2 sets of 2, 2 sets of 3, and 1 set of 4, all glued together with wood glue on the long sides. Then once those are dry, we'll go ahead and we will paint them. Here I'm using a teal, very similar to Waverly's Agave, and we're just going to paint the sides and the ends, actually every surface, even though we're gluing them together. The orange pieces there are exactly the same size as the teal ones, and then I wanted my white pumpkin to be twice as tall. Then we're going to take our set of 2 and glue it to the center of our set of 3. We're going to do that to both sets of 2 and 3. And then once those are dry, we'll put some glue on a set of 3 and glue that down to the middle of a set of 4. And then we'll glue the other ones to the back in just a minute. So this is just the same, like I said, 2 blocks wide, but they're 2 blocks tall, gluing the 2 wide to the 3 wide, then the 3 wide to the 4 wide. And then now we'll glue the other side of our white pumpkin. Like I said, there is a video that gives much more drawn out description, but I think you get the idea and you can see what I'm making here. 2 to 3 to 4 in the middle, then 3, and then 2. So I have a small teal pumpkin, a small orange pumpkin, and a tall white pumpkin. Once those were completely dry, I did use antique wax to kind of grunge these up a little bit. And if you end up getting too much, you can always sand some off after you rub it if it's still too dark. Just use a sanding block and then you can remove some of that antique wax. I love how these turned out. They're super cute. I had them in my craft show as a set of 3 marked for $18. I did also put a wine cork on the top of each one as the stem and then added some Dollar Tree leaves from some floral picks. If you love budget home decor DIY videos like this on YouTube, please consider giving my video a thumbs up, as that lets YouTube know people are enjoying my content and they will then show it to more and more viewers. DIY 13 is this dimensional pumpkin tag using another one of these 3D wood pumpkins from Dollar Tree, as well as a large tag sign and some of these metal words. I'm going to use this teal color again, and this time I'm going to paint the background of my pumpkin. And then it's okay if I get some on the raised parts because we're going to be covering that with scrapbook paper. So here, taking again this really pretty blue truck with sunflowers and pumpkins, I'm using my fingernails to go around the edges so that I know where to cut to get my 3 pieces that we will then Mod Podge onto the 3 raised areas of our pumpkin. Just put a little layer of Mod Podge, spritz a little water on your paper, and press those down, getting out any air bubbles. Then once they're pressed down completely, I will take some more Mod Podge, go over the top of the paper and the teal painted areas to get a nice finish. We will return that raffia bow back. This you can see is a summer sign. I am going to, it's a little taller than 12 inches, but I'm going to first paint 1 layer of white chalk paint over the design just so that we don't see those flamingos and those bright colors through the scrapbook paper. Once that's dry, we'll apply some Mod Podge and then lay down our white shiplap looking scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby. You can see I need a little extra there at the top, so I'll take a second piece, line it up as best we can to completely cover our scrapbook paper, and you can see what I'll do in just a moment to cover up that line where the two pieces come together. Once our Mod Podge is dry, we'll take our Fisker's fingertip knife and our cutting mat, trim those edges to get that excess scrapbook paper off. We could also sand the edges as well. Now I'm kind of arranging how things are going to go, and I decided to add a strip of the burlap ribbon, one to cover up the place where the two scrapbook papers came together, and also to make the word harvest stand out a little bit better. It kind of blended in with the white scrapbook paper. So then apply hot glue to the back of the pumpkin, and we'll attach this down on our tag sign. We'll add the harvest word to the burlap ribbon, and then we'll add our raffia bow back to our little pumpkin sign. Then I'm going to take a little black and white gingham ribbon from Michael's or Hobby Lobby and add that as well to our stem of our pumpkin. And then one more little finger wrapped bow using jute twine. We're going to add that on top of the black and white just to give a nice layered bow effect to the stem of our pumpkin. I did also add a jute twine and some beads to make this tag sign be able to hang as well. And I sold this in my craft show. I believe it was for $8 to $10. For DIY number 14, we're going to be making a Happy Fall shadow box using one of these banks from Dollar Tree, some scrapbook paper, and Happy Fall wood words again from Hobby Lobby. Also from Hobby Lobby, this little bag of acorns and mini pine cones. So I took out the back from the bank and I'm just tracing the size of the background so I can trim this scrapbook paper and get that attached down. I just happened to grab tacky glue this time and attach that down. It's going to be inside the bank and protected. Then taking some of the acorns and pine cones, we're going to add some of those into our bank, shake them around and see where they land. Again, these mini Happy Falls, you get 2 orange and 2 of the wood color. I definitely went with the orange because it stood out so much better from the background colors. We're just gluing that right onto the front of this bank. And then what I wanted to do is I wanted to add some texture to the actual black bank. So I'm taping this off so I don't get any on the glass, and I'm just going to use a chippy brush to streaky paint some white. I just thought this added a lot more interest, and we're also going to do this around the edges of the bank as well. I did spray all that paint with a clear matte spray to keep it from scratching off. And I also did sell this, I believe it was $7 in my craft show. DIY number 15 is a wood crate display shelf. This is similar to the house I made earlier this year. We're going to use 13 of these wood crates. You definitely want to make sure they're all very, very close in size and shape. You can see I'm going to have 2 rows of 5 where I am gluing the long sides together. And then we're going to have a row of 3 in the middle there that we are gluing on the short ends. So I took my time to glue and clamp, make sure everything was dried completely. And then once I had my 3 sections, I'm then going to glue the 3 for the middle to my bottom row of 5 and clamp that down. And once those are dried and set, we will glue the top set of 5. So this was really fun to make. It's like a different version of a card catalog type of box. The hardest part of this is painting it. So get everything glued so you're not painting where you don't need to. And I did paint the white on the inside. Then you can see I took 2 pieces of these giant craft sticks that I cut so that we can glue those in the bottom of our tall standing crates to cover up the hole. I just wanted this to look nice and finished on the inside. So you can see there, I'm just covering up that hole. It doesn't come all the way to the front, but that's okay because we're going to be using these 3 5-gallon paint sticks. We're going to cut the pieces. We're going to paint them white as well to match. And these are going to be kind of little edges to the front of our craft display here. So then once they were dry, we're going to use some more wood glue, and we're going to glue one going across the bottom of our bottom row. And then we'll do another one across the bottom of our middle and then the bottom of our top. I did weigh these down so that they would dry as flat as possible without bowing. Then I have these metal little brackets from Amazon. I'm going to use my E6000 or my Fix-All adhesive to glue one of these under each of the sections of my little display shelf. And look how cute it is. You can put fall stuff in there. It's, like I said, like a tiered tray, but in a slightly different format. And then it's neutral enough you can change it out for the seasons. DIY 16 is a pumpkin wreath form wall hanging. You've maybe seen these at your Dollar Tree. We're going to use one of those, some jute twine, which is going to be the majority of what we use, and then some leaves and florals and ribbons. So this does take a little while, but I really like the farmhouse look of the finished look. And so I'm taking jute twine and I'm actually wrapping this entire wreath form. Makes it a little thicker and, like I said, a little more rustic and farmhouse. So the first thing I did is I went around the entire outside and the stem. Then we're going to start again, just attaching a little bit of hot glue, and we're going to wrap down each of those vertical pieces that stick out. So I'm not going to make you watch me do this, but I think you get the idea. And here's what it looks like when everything is wrapped. Then you're just going to take florals that you have and take your time to hot glue those down around the top of the pumpkin as much as you want. You could put some more at the bottom too. I tended to keep my decorations at the top of my pumpkin. And once I had the leaves and the florals and these little, I don't know what they're called, beads, I then made a bow, just tying with this black and white buffalo check ribbon from Dollar Tree. I think this was around Halloween time. And just made a nice big bow. Just keep playing with it till you get it the size and shape that you want. And then we're going to tie this or glue this to the top of our pumpkin. If you are on Facebook, please head over to my Monarch Mom DIY Facebook page if you have not already, and please follow and like that page, as I am now also focusing on Facebook and trying to grow that audience as well. DIY 17 is going to be a display using some repurposed jars, and I used 4 different colors of Waverly chalk paint. I did paint my jars with malachite, which is a lot like fern, maize, crimson, and hazelnut. I had small jars of these, but I loved the difference in size and shape of my jars. And then using these wood letters from Dollar Tree, I'm using another color called Merlot. Again, you can use whatever colors you'd like. and painting all 4 of those letters. Once my jars were painted and I had sprayed them with a clear matte spray, I then took my antique wax. This, of course, is optional, and I streaked it and then rubbed it from my jars to give them a little more of a worn, maybe kind of a little bit of a rusty look. Did that to all 4 of my jars. Then I didn't have burlap ribbon, so I took this burlap coffee sack and I'm going to cut 4 pieces that I'm then going to wrap around each of my jars. I cut it and then went ahead and let it fray a little bit before gluing them around each of my jars. You just pull out a couple of the strings on the long sides. Super fun, and you can do so much with it. Then just using some hot glue, we're going to glue this around using a stick to press it down so you don't burn your fingers. And we're going to get those burlap pieces lined up with each other, even though our jars are different sizes, you can see. And then we're going to glue our letters on to spell fall. Then you just put whatever florals inside. Well, before you do that, I did also take jute twine and hot glued and wrapped it around the top part of each of my jars just to give them a more uniform look and add a little bit more of that farmhouse touch. So started out with some glue, wrap it around, and then of course glue it again as you get to the top. I just think this finishes off any of these jars that you use as vases really, really nicely. Then you can put in whatever florals you would like. And this is what I had on hand and what I chose to use. And I will tell you that I did sell this in my craft show yesterday for $20. So considering my only cost really was the wood letters and whatever florals I put inside, I thought that was a great deal. For DIY number 18, we're going to make a happy fall pumpkin sign. We're going to use a repurposed wood sign. We're going to use some of the wood pumpkin ornaments from Dollar Tree and some scrapbook paper. So you can see that the side of this I'm painting black, and we're not going to do anything with the front. We're actually doing everything on the back of this sign. Then I'm going to take my 9 pumpkins and paint the front of those with Waverly chalk paint in the color pumpkin. Then I'm going to need 2 pieces of this black and white buffalo check paper. I'm measuring where I need to cut it, and then we're going to Mod Podge this inside our sign here. I did have to overlap, so just get them, you know, where they match the best. It doesn't have to be perfect, and I think it looks really good once we get those Mod Podged in. So then just use that Mod Podge, put a layer of it inside that box, and then lay down your scrapbook paper, press it down nicely so that you don't get any air bubbles, and then put a little bit more Mod Podge where the 2 pieces of paper overlap. Then we're going to use a little bit of white chalk paint and a really small brush. I didn't want my pumpkins to look so flat, so we're just adding some highlighting to the outside and then to mark off where each of the sections of your pumpkin would be. Right in the middle, I'm going to use my white paint marker, and at first I'm just doing a simple letter, and then we'll come back and go over them again. You'll see what I mean in a second, to make them thicker so they stand out more from the orange of the pumpkin. Then I'm going to take my jute cord again. I'm going to make 9 little tiny bows, and we're going to glue one of those to the top of each of our pumpkins. You can see I also painted the stems with a brown paint. Once we get all of our little bows onto our pumpkins, we're going to then arrange them on our sign. And I'm going to glue down the first, third, and fifth letters of the word happy because I don't have quite enough space for them to lay next to each other, but I liked how this worked out anyway. Then the second and fourth letters will be glued to the letter on either side of it to make them a little more raised. I thought this looked super cute. And then we'll do the same thing with the second and fourth letters of fall. Actually, looks like I used first and third. and then the second and fourth letters are sticking out. Then we're just going to hang a jute twine to the back to hang it up. If I would have had this in my craft show, of course I would have painted that back first, but my daughter actually loves this and has this to decorate her bedroom for fall. DIY number 19 is going to be a Hello Fall chalkboard. We're going to use a repurposed picture frame, some ribbon, some chalk paint, and some fall leaves. So what I did first is remove the backing from the wood frame, and I'm going to use Waverly's pumpkin to paint my entire frame orange, and then we'll also use some antique wax from Waverly to grunge it up a little bit more. To turn the glass of our picture frame into a chalkboard, we're going to use this chalkboard paint. You do have to do about 2 or 3 layers, and the directions are really clear on the bottle. It's pretty thin and watery, so I had too much here. You'd have to take some off. So you're going to do 1 layer going vertical here. Then once that dries, you'll do your second layer going horizontal. And then if you need more, you can go back vertical again, but you're going to let each layer dry completely. Here, like I said, once the orange paint was dry, I did use antique wax again to add some texture and rustic look to the picture frame. Brush it on and wipe off the excess. I really like the color that this made our frame. It was a little more muted and not quite so bright of an orange. Now, once our chalkboard paint is dry, they do tell you to season the chalkboard by taking a piece of chalk and rubbing it over the entire chalkboard surface and then wiping it off. And then after that, your chalkboard can be used as a chalkboard, and you'll be able to write chalk on it or a chalk marker and then wipe it off. Then we're going to put it back into our picture frame along with the backing and press down the sides. I'm going to use some of this beaded garland. I think this is so pretty with the orange and the burgundy. Once I get it unwrapped, you'll see I'll tack it down with some hot glue and then hold it. And then once it's in place, I'm going to kind of weave it in and out around this frame, and I'm going to end up going around 2 times just to get the look that I wanted. Next, we're going to cut some individual leaves off of this leaf floral garland that I had in my stash, and you can see where I'm going to glue those down. Then taking this ribbon from Hobby Lobby, I'm going to tie a bow but leave the tails very long, because then we're going to glue those to the back of our frame so that this could hang on the wall, or you can use that easel on the back for it to stand on a table or a shelf. Now you could use chalk or a chalk pen to make you be able to change what this says, but I wanted it to stay saying hello fall. So I'm going to use my white paint marker that would then look like chalk to write that in cursive on our chalkboard surface. And DIY 20 is super easy. I had 2 of the wood crates from Dollar Tree, as well as some other crates of different sizes that I had been collecting. So I'm going to make some different size wood crate pumpkins. So these 2 from Dollar Tree, I'm going to glue together on the long side just to make a slightly taller version, and then put some clamps on that until it's dry. Then coming to my other crates that I have, I'm going to kind of use some different shades of orange, one using this pumpkin by Waverly, and paint all of our different wood crates these different colors of orange. I'm going to use these little wood slice stumps, I guess they're called, gluing 2 of them together for the larger pumpkins, and make those the stems for our wood crate pumpkins. We'll also then add in some leaves from some Dollar Tree florals, and I love putting these out on my porch each fall because they're so simple and I just love how they look together. Thanks again so much for joining me today. Please let me know, as always, in the comments which of these projects was your favorite, and we'll see you next time. Take care.